Alright, this is a 25 mists with just some random pugs. The tank invited me off my friends list. So, the beginning, pretty standard. We shroud. First pack's gonna be 4 plus the Tormentor. Uh, we tried this on a 26 and we wiped here. So I made the decision to not funnel because when we wiped, the tank died. Now I'm setting up. Hold on. We'll go back a little bit. So going into this poll, I'm looking for a focus target so I can keep tunneling on Executioner without having to worry about changing targets. So you can see here, I'll go set him as my focus, which is right there now, and we're good to go. Normal opener, get slice and dice up, do the thing. So I know that we have a lot of stops, so I'm looking just to interrupt bolts because I know that those chain harvest casts just aren't gonna make it through. I am looking at potentially stunning one of the soul cleavers, just because those are what's really gonna mess up our tank right now. But it ends up not even being an issue. Now, when we go from 3 targets to 2 targets here, that's when you want to switch from Storm to Shadow Strike. That's just the way it goes, unless, like you can see right now, if you're outside of your Shadow Dance, then even on 2 targets, you still want to use your Storm. Alright, so from here, we get the buff, and we're going straight into Sogdown. Now, he's pulling the boss onto. He's pulling Sogdown onto the boss. I'm not really sure how exactly this works, but it triggers the boss and it despawns it, so we can do the boss without doing the bow breakers, which is pretty great. Don't really understand how it works, but pretty great. Now I'm looking to try and time. Yeah, we'll go back real quick. So up here, I've got my little cooldown from the Shadowlands Dungeons Week Aura pack to tell me when the next chain is coming up. So my goal here is to try and time out the Shuriken Storm so I can get a few free eviscerates off. Now I don't have to worry about the chains themselves dying because we have a Frost Mage and a Windwalker Monk. So I'm looking just to funnel him and try and get it as quick as possible. And I am holding cooldowns here because next pull's the boss. And I've had a lot of trouble figuring out the right cooldown timings for Tyrannical Mist Skis on this boss. I chickened out there and I didn't commit. Should have committed. Alright, so always get the Stone Ward. I think that's pretty common knowledge. So we open up. I was thinking about getting dots up on Ingra, but because I've had so many issues with phasing this boss incorrectly, I figured it was best to just dump everything into Droman to make sure we hit the phase. Now there was probably a rotational error. I probably should have saved that Shadow Dance charge, because now I have to wait for 5 seconds before I can actually get my next symbols off. And the goal is to never have to hold your symbols. It's one of the main goals in their single target rotation. Uh, yeah. So here I got a rupture on Ingra, so going into the burn phase, I don't have to reapply it. And yeah, then we go in with Dance and Symbols, get some damage down. Uh, Now I know, like in theory, there's a proper way to align these cooldowns, so you get your big stuff on Ingra instead of having to dump it all into Droman. But we're not on comms. We're not planning anything out really. Like we didn't even link a route or anything. So it's one of those things where I'd rather make sure that we get through Droman quickly than hold CDs and try and line them up perfectly. Hmm. I probably could have held my trinket here, and I'm pretty sure I don't pop a potion. Yeah, I'm definitely tunneling, so I'm not looking at popping a potion. So holding a trinket would have added a good chunk more damage there. Uh, but again, I'm not holding uh, cooldowns because I'm more concerned about making sure that we actually get through each phase. And yeah, it is worth noting throughout this run that you probably won't see me worrying too much about explosives. Uh, the tank and the healer made it really clear that they had it covered. And they did. It's kind of insane. Tends to be a pretty big problem with pugs, but these guys were just on another level. So I was greedy there. Uh, Positioning is really important on this boss. It's so easy to die on that fear if you're not like pre-positioned because Tremor Totem can't get all of them, and Cloak has to be precast. So this should be the end, right? Finally get a flag off on Ingra, and yeah, so not bad. There's not a whole lot to do here. We do the 2-pack with the guy. I'm not convinced that using Shuriken Storm is the move here. I almost think that it's more beneficial to just full tunnel single target on the incinerator because we don't funnel that well with 2 additional targets, unlike what we'll be seeing next year probably. So in my head, it makes more sense to just put more damage straight into him because that's what's going to prevent us from moving forward anyways. So let's see. From here, we're just, pretty standard pulls. We're following the maze. There isn't a whole lot to be done here. Uh, I will say, going into some of these packs, uh, the Stalker is definitely worth getting a big stun on. Uh, there are things that we can shiv on the defenders when things start dying. Uh, if we keep targeting him, you'll see the buff pop up right here. Yep, so there's a bolster, and then there's a enraged that you can just shiv off like I did right there. It is worth noting, since this is an explosive week, that the bolstering power is huge. It's pretty much a constant 15%. damage buff. Uh, so, again, nothing too important, fancy, crazy here. Single target. I'm going to do another pack. Now here, I'm setting the tenders as focus, and I'm targeting the Guardian, because the Guardian's got that nasty little knockback, and we want to be ready to stun it. I mean, we've got so many stops that it doesn't really matter, but getting a big kidney on that just makes the whole thing. See, and I was ready to kick it, and I didn't even have to. I can't stress the importance of focus macros enough. I've just started working on that, and it has already made the gameplay substantially smoother. Okay, now we'll skip ahead a little bit, because there's pretty much nothing here. Oh, we can go back to that real quick. One quick note. When this rampage goes off and you get kicked, unless you see the circle go away, because like right there, like we got the cheap shot off and the kidney on the other one. If you don't see the circle go away, do not step back in like I do right here, because it'll just keep kicking you and you will die. But because we got the cheap shot off and we broke it, we're good. Alright, so going into boss room, I don't know how they do it, but we pull another set of trash. We're not gonna pull it onto the boss like we would have, But all right, so this is another one where we're looking at two big knockbacks. Okay, so we should have stunned the bite. The healer will be fine to get through it, especially since it's fortified, but that's definitely something you want to stun if you can. And all right, so going into this boss, one of the main things that you want to look for are explosives during the intermission phase, right? Because they'll spawn a little further away than you might expect, and it's really easy to miss them, and there's a lot of AoE damage going out there at the same time. So it's worth keeping an eye on them, and if you can see them but can't get to them, react defensively. I should have refreshed Rupture instead of Eviscerating on that one. So I'm holding my flag here because the phase is coming up, and getting through that phase as quick as possible is always a good idea. And you want to make sure that you get the full value out of it. Alright, so we're looking, we're panicking, and we figure it out. And I think I used Shuriken Storm a little early there. My understanding of it is you do want to hold it for symbols and dance. And there I'm just looking at our damage breakdown because I'm self-conscious because this Frost Mage is beating me. But that's gonna happen, you know? Alright, so we're opening again on him. We build the cooldowns here, we get through it as quick as possible. See, I should have kept moving there. I missed a few. Well, just the smallest little smidge of uptime. But if I just stepped one more to the side, I would have been fine.
Dodge.
Alright, so that's pretty much the fight. There isn't much to it. We skipped the cold guy. I've never. This is the first dungeon that I've. Uh, well, I guess the first mists that I've done where we skipped the cold guy. So when we skipped him, which I knew we had to do time wise, uh, I was very nervous because I know that it's pretty tricky going into the last boss with it.
Spread. Avoid. Avoid. Spread.
So these are pretty standard pulls. I guess it hasn't been until recently that I've seen these pulls get doubled in this way. Uh, but I see it a lot more now. And I think it kind of makes sense to split up the Staghorn packs if you can. And if I turn around, I'm pretty sure you'll see that they CC'd the little flying ad pack.
Avoid.
But I am entirely too tunneled on making sure that we kill. Alright, so another tricky spot.
Avoid.
We're looking for, we need two different sets of alternating interrupts.
Spread.
There are a lot of ways to handle that non-verbally. Uh, but at the end of the day, you kind of just have to. Someone has to slow roll it. Someone has to be quick with it. I am also tunneling.
Avoid.
I guess not anymore, but I was tunneling the lower Staghorn. That way we didn't have to deal with
Avoid.
that many interrupts. Granted, we do have a really good set for interrupts, so it wouldn't have been the biggest issue.
Avoid.
But now there's the end cap. Okay, so I did see it later. Uh, yeah,
Avoid.
the monk and the mage, really everyone in this key was just incredibly solid. Now, I got excited here and did my little combo early. I should have waited for him to pull these in. Would have been a much more efficient use of my damage, but you live and you learn.
Avoid. Spread. Avoid. Spread. Avoid.
Alright, so I'm wondering here how many more packs we're gonna do. Because I do want to try and time out my cooldowns correctly. And I opt to just send it with some of the lower cooldown stuff.
Avoid.
And we're doing another
Avoid.
double Staghorn pack, so we're gonna try and get rid of that one to make things a little easier. Here we go.
Spread. Avoid. Avoid. Avoid.
There's not really much left on this pack. Let's skip forward into the boss. So I'm looking for the monk. It's kind of hard to see each other under the tail, but the goal here in my head was to stay stacked. Because if we stay stacked, then we
Dance.
can conserve space with the little green puddles. And that was my biggest fear, is getting clipped by these little green puddles and dying. And I know with a lot of the
Move. Interrupt.
ads, the mage is just taking care of it. I'm sure the paladin's helping too, but I'm just solely focused on single target damage at this point. So again, I'm looking for the monk. I'm not really sure where we ended up, but again, looking for the monk just to find some safe space.
Ads.
I was very, very panicked at this point just because the little green spots had me pretty worried. So I get some decent funnel here. I opt to continue tunneling the boss instead of black powdering because I'm more worried about timing the key than I am about padding my damage. And I thought that was the right move.
Ads.
So I don't know where our monk friend is. So I step to him.
Dance.
So again, a little more funnel. Things are starting to get a little tight here, and it is now substantially harder to see where I can and can't stand underneath the boss.
Ads.
Gotta pop. So I was originally hoping to split sprint and cloak into two separate dodges. But I panicked there. And again, I stepped to him, standing on green stuff. It's underneath the boss. Couldn't see it.
Dance.
And I got to step again.
Ads. Move.
So we step, stand on some green stuff, almost die. Stand on some green stuff again. Getting healed by just panicking. Really phoning it in here. Looking for a spot to dodge.
Move.
I couldn't. I didn't have enough energy there. So that's cheat. I step again just to try and get a better position for it. At this point, I just am thinking kill the boss, kill the boss, kill the boss. Everything else will be fine if we just kill the boss.
Dance. Ads. Move.
And barely. 2 minutes. Only need 2%. Figure we kill one of these guys. We're good, right? Falling here.
Spread. Avoid.
There's a moment in a key when you feel like you have timed it and you're comfortable. And then you get to unpack all that anxiety that you felt throughout the whole thing. This was that moment. But we're
Avoid.
0.38% short So we're funneling one more, and there we go. So in recap, in my opinion, the current toughest part of Mists is for sure that first boss, followed closely by this second boss if you do it without the frost guy. But we did it. It's pretty good.